In this video, I'm going to be talking about a couple of the times throughout my life that I felt the most out of shape and most sore after a workout. These are times where I was so sore that I had trouble walking for days afterwards. It was hard. I'm talking seriously worthy of concern to just get down some stairs. And I want to explain why that happened. So it might be a fun story, but also you might get some value in understanding and learning some things about health and fitness and how they can help you succeed and help your mind function better and your body function better so that you do better in your school, your career, and your life. So let's just get started. So I think the first category of times where I felt the most sore, and these are, I've gone through tons of very, very ridiculous, rigorous workouts throughout the years. In the last few years, we're talking CrossFit workouts that really just suck the air out of you, where you are so out of air after a workout that you can't breathe it in fast enough. And then when I push as hard as I do, it gets even tougher. A lot of people will kind of just give up or cheap out. Not me, I keep pushing. But that's not when I felt the sorest. In fact, the sorest I felt, the first bucket, the first category comes from the times when I was out of shape and I then tried out for high school sports teams. So think about that. Usually, those moments where you feel the most sore, they come from those extremes where you don't have that training in place, and so when you're dealt with such extremes, it can be devastating on your body. I've learned in time that that's not really the way to go, and it can also not only shock your body too much, but it can also shock you or kind of scare you away from ever going back to a gym or even traumatizing some of you. Fortunately, it didn't for me. I felt I had a tough mind, mental toughness, but still was really tough for me. The story was, basically I did have some exercise training before that. I was part of recreational soccer teams. I had been a paid soccer referee and made some good money that way. But the thing is, other than that, those practices, those types of activities are generally fairly leisurely. Yeah, they work you during practice, but not so much as I realized when it came to high school sports. Now, of course, depending on where you live, maybe your high school team was also super leisurely too, but not mine. And so when I hit that, it was a shock to the face. Unfortunately, I never made it past tryouts, but the tryouts lasted a few days and they were really tough. And so basically, I tried out for the soccer team and then the lacrosse team, and they were really, really tough. And then for me, just a regular, seemingly skinny guy who, ate fast food or whatever was at home, chips, junk food, or just sometimes home cooked meals. I was not in a physical shape to be ready for that. And I learned a valuable lesson from that, which was that just because you're skinny doesn't mean that you are cardiovascularly fit. So basically, the story goes, I go into the soccer camp really nervous, and they work you. And since you're competing with everyone else, off the get-go, it's tough. Truth be told, both of these tryouts had a lot of running. And so that's a big issue to begin with. They had everyone sprint from a nearby school to another nearby school. So that was already like half a mile, maybe a mile. It started as a jog, but then everyone just kept picking up their pace. I don't even think the coaches told you to, but everyone did, maybe to prove themselves or whatever. And then I started to fall behind. Other people's jogs was like my sprint. So I was already worn out by the time we got to the other school. Turns out that was just a warm up in the sense, because when we ran to that school, we went to the track and they timed our miles. Of course, my mile time was one of the worst. We're talking 10 plus minutes. And I was pushing myself so hard. Afterwards, they decided to run back. It was already embarrassing because some people already had like 6-minute miles or even less. So it was like, what is going on here? Some people are just naturally talented or whatnot. And then they ran back to the school, and it was really one of the toughest times. It's hard to share, but I threw up on my way back. Um, my dad thought it would be good to cook eggs and toast before the event. It would, a nice light breakfast. Turns out not for me, because I was just kind of out of shape or behind the curve, and I threw up. Fortunately, I didn't make it there, and I guess all that sprinting. I mean, it's some would call it longer distance, but for me at that time, I was basically sprinting the whole thing because I was so far behind everyone. I was pushing myself so much, and I was so slow that I had to basically sprint it all just to try and keep up and have a reasonable time. And I threw up there, and some other people saw that, and that was that. Similar situation occurred with the other tryouts, and the long and short of it was um, they didn't do the same thing, but they did do a bunch of suicides on day two, I believe. And it was in the gym, and the basic idea is you just sprint from one line to the other, back and forth, back and forth. And I was one of the slowest. Um, I am happy to say, and it is heartwarming to know that there were a few people at both of these tryouts who were very supportive and friendly and encouraging and uplifting to me, even though I was one of the last ones there. I really, really value that, even especially because I felt out of place, being Asian, being shy, and being one of the slowest. And I really appreciated that because, they didn't have to do that. It was a competitive setting, and it could have been more cutthroat. Either way, I didn't make it through, but it was a very valuable learning lesson for me, and that was the story. Now, the funny part about that is that now I'm probably in the best shape of my life after about 4.5, 5 years of CrossFit. I've gone to classes more frequently than most people. Most regulars that stick with it, which are few already, they go maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I've been going 5 times a week, sometimes 4, but mostly 5 times a week consistently, even through quarantine. And so I'm in the best shape of my life now. Obviously, I could be better. I could be more muscular. I can still cut down on my body fat. But in general, like in terms of my aerobic fitness, I mean, it is really good. I've been seeing some of my CrossFit Metcon times drop, and some of these workouts are very high intensity interval training. We're talking, just the other day I did like 60, 70 burpees, like three broken up into like 4 rounds or so, but plus a bunch of box jumps, deadlifts, lots of work, stuff that really takes the gas out of you, and stuff that, newbies, when they come in, they are like, how do you even do this for more than one day a week? And they'll tell me like, oh, I was just super sore the rest of the week. And for me, it was just fine. And so what I've learned is I've kind of gradually built up until that. And, I think the first year of CrossFit was definitely much tougher than the other years in a way, because it was kind of a lot. But I took it at my pace. I took it at lighter weights. And then that gradual increase, when you build that and you take on these harder workouts, it doesn't seem as bad. And if I were to go back to that time and do those tryouts, sure, maybe I still wouldn't be the top of the class, but I would probably do better, somewhat better than I did back then. And I'd probably be middle of the pack or even better. It's hard to say. I was never a superior runner, but I think I would do decent, not great, because CrossFit's a different type of thing than running, but I still run some of the time. And so it's important to kind of understand how health and fitness can really help you. It improves your brain health, your happiness, and your mental performance. It also improves your entire well-being and energy levels, so that you're sharper, you're more focused at work, at school. When you combine that with a good, healthy nutrition and diet and plenty of sleep, you are operating 2 times, 3 times better than the average person. And then if you have your happiness on check, 4 or 5 times better than the average person. So that's how you can really get ahead. And looking back then, I feel like I could have definitely at least gotten some type of regular workout in. Obviously, I didn't have the infrastructure there, like my parents didn't really think about it, but I could have set something else up. I know other classmates had, where, maybe I went on a jog or a run every day, maybe just 1 mile, and then every day I try and beat my previous time just a little bit, a couple seconds. That can really add up over the months or years and really contribute to great heart health. Um, Now, obviously, genetics play a big role. Some people were just kind of like me and they ran a lot faster. But you can still set yourself up for success. And even if you fail or you don't get it in high school, there's in the future, you can always set yourself up for success in other ways because your environment changes. Your ability to make choices changes. You have more independence. You can go to a gym, sign up for a fitness program or trainer yourself, and no one can stop you. And I would say that those are some of my source times. I would say, yeah, there were some times in the last 4 or 5 years that I would say are a somewhat close second. But those times are times where, I felt good about being sore because, it was planned, it was regular, and it was somewhat gradual. It was through years and years of building the volume, the weight, and so forth. And so when I pushed on that day and did a lot of volume, say, you know, 6 rounds of 10 deadlifts or 10 rounds of 6 deadlifts and all sorts of other stuff, squats and front squats and back squats. When I couldn't move my legs, the next day I felt good about it because, that was planned, that was part of the process. And I'd set up the rest of my life, or my life was just set up in a way where I didn't have to do much movement the day after. I was sitting most of the day anyways. So those were times where it was just, it was good, it was planned. I felt good that I was sore because that meant my muscles had gotten a good workout and would grow and get stronger. So that's kind of my second category. In the first category, a different story. And, I think for at least like 4 or 5 days afterwards, I had serious trouble just walking up the stairs. Like literally I had to hold on the railings and like my legs would not move. It was that bad. And it was an over exertion to a crazy degree. Now for the last five years I've had an incredible recovery, and part of that's just due to building that into routine gradually, and then going hard when I knew I could, and that ultimately allowed me to get to a point where I could go to the gym 5 days a week, and other people could only go once. They would try CrossFit, and it was just too much, and they could only do it once a week because they were just so sore afterwards. It was such a shock to their system, and so that's what happened to me, and that's what I've learned. And make sure you keep in mind there's a difference between strength training and aerobic training. You may have stronger muscles, but if your cardiovascular ability, your heart health, the strength of your heart is not strong, then you may not be able to do a lot of metabolic things well, and your general health and longevity could still suffer a lot. So there's a difference between just going to the gym and lifting a lot of heavy weights all the time versus actually doing something that gets your breath moving and pumping all the time, whether that's biking, running, jogging, CrossFit, swimming. There's a lot of things that get your heart bumping and you breathing hard, and those are good signs that you are starting to work your aerobic system. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe.